So what does this mean? The SEC just sued Richard Hart. I'm sure you've heard. It's been a few days and many YouTubers and Twitter spaces have been talking about how the SEC just protected us and helped us dump 50% of the value of all our RH tokens. HEX, Pulse, PulseX have all seen 40, 50% dumps over the last few days. All thanks to the protectors at the SEC, who are doing a great job making sure that no plebis like you and me are allowed to make any kind of decisions with their own money. Did you make a sacrifice for freedom of speech or freedom of movement? No, you did not. Even though you agreed that that's what you did, you don't know what you're doing. You need the SEC to tell you that that was not a sacrifice. It was in fact an investment in Richard Hart, who misappropriated that money and went and bought a diamond with it that he plans to send into outer space with your money that you invested into an ICO, even though you had no idea you were doing that and you thought you were sacrificing your crypto tokens, not money, because there was no way to send money to Richard Hart, but all those cryptocurrencies that you were able to send to the sacrifice address were in fact an investment in an unregistered security, even though you had no idea that that's what you were doing. That's why the SEC is there. They're going to protect you by first taking away 50% of the value of those tokens that you received from Richard Hart, and then they're going to try to tell Richard Hart that he misappropriated those funds and probably give him some, fines or whatever this frivolous lawsuit leads to. It's not criminal, by the way. So it's kind of really strange to see how everybody's talking about, Richard's going to prison, and we told you that he's a scammer and they're going to come after him and all this. It's sad. It's really sad. Like the video, dislike the video if you don't really want to like it. As long as you do something, and then, in the comments, tell us what you think. Tell us what you think about what this lawsuit means. Do you believe that the SEC is protecting you? Do you believe that this is in everybody's best interest?
This video is sponsored by NFTcom.io, the marketplace where you can buy and sell anything using crypto. Built on PulseChain. Create your store now.
How does this affect the RH ecosystem moving forward? How does it affect HEX? How does it affect Pulse? How does it affect PulseX? Well, let's talk about all these things. Is Richard Hart going to prison? Well, so far, there is no criminal charges. There is nothing to suggest that this is going to lead to any criminal charges. Although it may be scary on the surface, the damage that has been done on such little volume of tokens moving over the last few days is pretty significant. A lot of people now believe that the SEC has some, real charges against Richard Hart and that this is going to lead to devastation. When in reality, if we think about what's really going on here, is they are kind of proving to everybody that this is all a sham. The real scammers are the moneymakers who are trying to protect what little dignity or little trust they have in the minds of the masses out there by falsely attacking, or actually they're not attacking anyone. They're unleashing their dogs on founders who are bringing us true DeFi like Richard Hart. Because what is the scariest thing to somebody who has dominated and abused their powers for the centuries that they've been in this situation, in this seat of power, without any contenders or any real threats? What is the biggest threat to these people? Is it some foreign currency? Is it a coalition of foreign currencies like the BRICS? No, come on, guys. Nobody's gonna trust Russia and Iran and Saudi Arabia and China, that they're not going to replace the dollar. They're not going to threaten the supremacy of the dollar as a world reserve currency. They may take a share of global trade. Bilateral agreements are happening from, a long time ago anyway. These things are not going to be the new system. They're not going to be what replaces or threatens the dollar. What's going to replace or threaten the dollar is going to be the CBDC, which is a planned kind of implosion of the dollar into a CBDC, which is really the same people behind the dollar printers. They're just going to print CBDCs or put chips in our hands, as we've been hearing recently. And that's going to be something that they roll out by introducing universal basic income in return for compliance. So they'll tell you, okay, you start using this CBDC account and you link it to your passport. They may even put a microchip in our hand or forehead, as the religious crowds have suggested for thousands of years. It's in the Bible. The mark of the beast shall be in their hand or in their forehead. I don't know how they put it in your forehead. Anyway, let's not jump off topic, guys. Again, like, subscribe, share the video with your friends and family. Let's have a big debate over here. I know you must all be interested in this because you've either suffered 40-50% down in your own portfolio in the last few days, or you know somebody who's very heavily invested, a Hexagon, or you know somebody who's been trying to make you look into HEX or Pulse or PulseX. And let's not take this as a pure surface news that it is, and let's make this topic something of a benefit to everybody, at least to open everybody's eyes as to the real war that's going on between legacy systems and DeFi. This is an open war against DeFi, sovereignty, freedom of trade, freedom of speech, and it's also kind of dismissing all the rules that we're supposed to all abide by and saying, well, when you disclose that this is not an investment and you get nothing in return and you're sacrificing, no, we don't believe you. We decide if your prospectus meets the standards or not. So usually if you tell somebody, hey, listen, this is 100% risk, you may get zero, then you should be okay. You should be allowed to sell that person whatever it is. But not in the case of crypto, because in crypto, if you tell people, hey, you're going to sacrifice to this address, you get only points in return. Those points are worth nothing, and we may give you tokens representing those points, then that's an ICO. And you were just trying to con the regulator. You weren't really trying to tell people that, hey, have no expectations of profits from the work of others, even though it is specifically said many, many times. And Richard Hart went out of his way to stream for hours and hours, repeating to people that, listen, there is no expectation of profit from the work of others. If you ask the SEC, that doesn't mean anything because, hey, listen, we all know that you don't really mean it. You don't really mean it, man. Come on. You meant that if you sacrifice, I'm going to give you these tokens and you can expect a ton of profit, 10,000x, 1,000x. That's what you meant, okay? Doesn't matter what you write. Doesn't matter what words you use, sacrifice, ICO, whatever other terms. No. This was a sale of an unregistered security. You didn't ask for permission. So you are a fraudster, huckster, whatever. So is that true, guys? Is Richard Hart going to go to prison? Well, so no financial advice, of course. This is pure opinions, and that's why I ask you again to please make your comments so we can discuss our varying opinions here and see what perspectives we each have and how we feel about this lawsuit. To be very honest, I feel very good about it. I feel like it's kind of playing into Richard's trap. Let's talk about that for a second. So, we all know Richard Hart. He's not the alien with the giant brains. That's another guy who has a foundation, so they don't attack him because he used this foundation to destroy the plebs, dump on their heads, and he's using that foundation now to create a public service, a public good. It's now a highway or a street light, right? So Ethereum is a street light, and that's not a big threat to the powers that be, because they probably, first of all, have a lot of Ethereum. Maybe let's not speculate too much here, but Ethereum can be controlled. It's a proof of stake system now, and it's been around long enough that it's sufficiently decentralized as per our friends, our protectors at the SEC. And we shouldn't touch it because, Vitalik is a friendly alien, controlled opposition. Probably. Not attacking Vitalik in any way. I'm just saying that the guy is very cooperative. He doesn't go out there and say, my Ponzi is better than the government Ponzi. My fake internet money is better than fake internet dollars. But Richard Hart does. Richard Hart went out there and said that he is creating a better certificate of deposit than the one that fiat offers you at the bank. He goes out there and says that, these things allow you to maintain your sovereignty, to have freedom of speech, to have freedom of trade. It gives you the power to create a basic income from your own assets without having to rely on counterparties and governments. Now, the money makers don't like that. And when I say money makers, I don't mean that, what your understanding of money makers. Money makers is actually those who make the money. They create it out of thin air and tell you that you owe it back to them, plus money that they didn't even create yet. It's called interest. It's a wonderful thing. Unfortunately, you and I are not allowed to partake in the money making. So what we have to do is called money taking. We have to go out there and take money from an employer, take money from a contractor, take money from somebody who wants us to do something for them. And we cannot go and create money out of thin air. Well, HEX and Pulse change that. HEX allows you to print more money, print more HEX by just locking up your HEX. PulseChain allows you to create money out of thin air by becoming a validator, what's called a miner in Bitcoin. Okay, so you help secure the network and you receive more of the network's money, more of the network's token that it creates and gives to you, the miner in Bitcoin's case. And in PulseChain, there are thousands, tens of thousands of people who are creating their own money. In HEX, there are hundreds of thousands of stakers, people who are miners also. We don't want to call them stakers anymore because semantics. Some new guy at the SEC who God knows who's coming after good old Gary. And these guys who take these positions, who are unelected, you never voted for these people. They've never owned crypto themselves, but yet they want to teach you and they want to protect you from people who are introducing true DeFi, a true sovereign mechanism that challenges the legacy system of banking, central banking to be very specific. Because there is a good form of banking. Before the Federal Reserve was created, prior to 1913, we had a different kind of banking. Not Federal Reserve based, not fractional reserve based. There was a gold standard. There are many different attempts at creating a fair trading system for the world. And those things have slowly disappeared and become more kind of aggressive towards the masses. Now, I don't know if you've had this experience or not. I've had many of these experiences, and for 25 years, I've been dabbling in business all over the world. I was a serial entrepreneur. 25 years ago, I started to have experiences that opened my eyes to this kind of private club. When you open a company from your mom's basement, which is, I'm saying, I'm using this example here because it may relate to a lot of people out there. You open a brand new company, you want to try to sell a product. 20 years ago, good luck getting a bank account. Good luck getting any kind of way to get paid, remotely. Back then, it wasn't even internet yet. It was like check by phone or card by phone. Then the internet came and it became like easier, but still not very easy for startups, because if you had a brand new company, the bank would tell you, oh, go find some aggregator to allow you to process credit cards. And then once you have history, then we'll let you, and then we freeze your money and we want security and this and that. But let's say you didn't have any of these problems. Let's say you created a company, you got some money, and now you want to go and pay someone. But that someone lives in a country that your bank doesn't like. So now your bank tells you, hey, why do you want to pay this guy? Oh, but he lives in, I don't want to single out any country, but let's say an African state with a lot of talent that people are offering services out of. Could be Morocco, could be Nigeria, Ghana, okay? Oh, well, you want to pay this guy. What did he do for you? Man, this guy is, I don't know, he's a web designer or something. Well, give us the contract that you have with this guy. Okay, you give them the contract. Show us the invoice he sent you for this. Okay, you give them the invoice. Well, 2 weeks later, they come and they tell you, no, you can't send money to this guy who you want to pay. But it's my money, and I want to pay this guy. Well, we know better. And it's actually not really your money. It's our money now. And you're the guy who's allowed to tell us what you want us to do with it. But the bank owns those funds now. They don't even have to give it back to you. They can find a million reasons why they can keep it for 6 months and then maybe give it to you. And if they do, they'll send you a check and tell you, well, you no longer have an account with us. Here's a check. Go cash it somewhere else. Good luck finding a place to cash it for you, because you just got shut down. So I don't want to turn this into a rant about banks, but I'm just trying to paint a picture here as to how blockchain has simplified trade. Global trade is now possible between any two parties because of this amazing new technology called cryptocurrencies. And no, it's not crypto or blockchain. Listen, there cannot be a blockchain without crypto. That's just a database and it doesn't serve anybody. It's slow, and there's no reason to have a cryptocurrency without a blockchain, or a blockchain without a cryptocurrency. It's just, these things are hand in hand. Now, we were talking about the fact that the SEC is trying to protect us by wrecking us first, and then by going after a guy who is introducing true DeFi. Why? Why do they want to do that? We can speculate as to what their motivations are, but I mean, in my opinion, it's very obvious to me that they're working on behalf of the moneymakers who feel that they are losing small market share here and there to things like PulseChain, PulseX, and HEX. Bitcoin and Ethereum have been ruled out to be safe or not securities. Not even Ethereum, it's just Bitcoin. Everything else could be a security. Now, what is a security? And why do you have to protect me from a security? If I want to invest in a stock in a company, I have to tell you who I am, how I made my money, how long I've had this money, and then you have to give me a quiz and find out if I'm smart enough to invest or not, if I qualify. Guys, who are they trying to protect here? They are only trying to protect their circle, their private boys club that's allowed to invest in things that they're going to pump, because they're saying, listen, we are never going to let these assets fail. These things are the blue chips. They're called, the darlings, the S&P 500 and all these. I mean, what are they trying to protect you from? Why is it so difficult to go buy a piece of this stuff? Oh, money laundering and terrorism. And these are all invented to keep you out of the things that pump. And they pump because their friends in Washington guarantee that they will pump. So it's all a closed system, guys. It's all a private club that we're not allowed to join because we're not rich enough or we don't pay enough taxes, or these are all excuses also. It's just they want to control who gets to be part of the circle and who doesn't. That's all it is. You're a good boy, you do what you're told. You're a good girl, you do what you're told. Okay, we'll see if we'll let you in. We'll let you buy some of this stuff that we then print money and pour into. And if you're not, you can go and lose the value of your money by trying to save up in the bank account, put your fiat in there. That money loses value over time because we're inflating the out of the currency, and you're stuck in that system. Now, you may be thinking, like, what is this guy talking about? Like, are you really telling me that all this is controlled by an evil cabal who really doesn't have my best interest at heart? No, of course not, friend. I'm not trying to tell you that. Of course the government has your best interest at heart. Of course, everything they do is for you. They are, of course, working for the people. Well, we've all been conditioned to remain compliant, to remain very obedient, and not question the status quo. You want to open a bank account, make an appointment with the bank. They'll ask you for all kinds of stuff, including electricity bills and whatever. Proof of address, they say. Proof of address and proof of income, your tax returns and blah, blah. And then they'll tell you, oh, since you're still young and you haven't had any kind of history, you're going to need to freeze $500 to get a student credit card. And then they give you a student credit card to build your financial history, your credit history. Very good, very good. And then when you start using this bank account, they will decide who you're allowed to pay, if you're allowed to pay them. And if they don't like who you want to pay and where they are, then they won't let you pay them. That's as simple as it is. And the same thing goes in the other direction. If somebody's trying to pay you, they decide if you get your money or not. They often decide after you get the money that they want to keep it for a week or two to decide whether this money is good money or bad money. There is nothing that is built to protect you. There is nothing that is built for your best interest. Everything that you have been exposed to so far in the legacy system has been created in a way to keep you poor, has been created in a way to protect those who have the capital from those who have not capital. If you have good credit, if you have a lot of money, you pay less fees, you get more loans, you get facilities. If you don't have money, you need the credit, you need the loans, you can't get it. And that's the way the system is built. And you have to pay more fees, and you have to pay more interest, and whatever they give you at a much, much higher rate. Why? Because they call you high risk. You are high risk when you have no experience. You are high risk when you have no money. You are high risk when you have no collateral to put against your loans. You are high risk when you don't belong to the club. When you are coming from the outside and you want to be part of the club, it's not easy. If you are part of the club, the door's open for you. So how does this relate to Richard Hart? What's going on here? And what's the SEC doing? Who are they trying to protect? Whose protector are they? Well, they are a protector, but they are not the plebs protector. They do not want to protect the guy that wants to come and support freedom of speech. Because if you decided that you want to sacrifice for PulseChain to ensure your ability to trade with whoever you want, whenever you want, then you, my friend, need to be protected from Richard Hart who created this system that runs out by itself without his intervention, and that can provide to you the ability to save your HEX in a contract that pays you for locking it. This is very bad. PulseChain, no, 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 no. You want to use a system that they cannot control, that had many, many others like you who sacrificed for freedom of speech and freedom of movement? No, 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 no. This is not good for you. And we will tell you that it's not good for you by showing you that as soon as we tell you it's not good for you, it loses 50% of its value. As soon as we try to stick some, I'm not even going to use the words that are coming to my head right now. As soon as we decide to file lawsuits against your beloved founder, Richard Hart, who created all these wonderful tools for you to use that are decentralized, and whether he goes to prison or not, which he won't, will continue to offer you the same functionality, the same fundamentals. No, this guy scammed you. He did all this by convincing you that you are doing something that in our book is an unregistered sale, a sale of an unregistered security. Even though everybody in the world knows that it was a sacrifice, everybody in the world knows that there are no expectations of work from of profit from the work of Richard Hart or others, okay, anyone. Even though everyone knows that Hexicans and Pulseans are all working of their own volition, they are not hired by Richard. I am not paid by anybody to be making this video right now. I don't really have a following yet. I don't have any influence out there, but I'm making this defending the protocol, HEX protocol, defending the PulseChain, defending PulseX, because they are tools that are necessary in a day where everything has become pro-censorship and everything has become pro-surveillance state, and it's an option, it's a choice, and I feel like it's important to defend our ability to have freedom of choice. So let's go back to the topic. Is Richard Hart going to prison? There are no criminal charges as of yet. This is a civil lawsuit, misappropriation of $12 million out of who knows, but the guy is obviously very wealthy, probably a billionaire. He didn't misappropriate $12 million. If they're saying that that money is provably from the sacrifice money, well, he could easily return it and pay a fine. But does anybody really care? Are they going to give back any of the money from the fines to people who sacrificed? No. So let's not pretend like they're the good guys. They're out for a money grab. They didn't get a share of taxes from this, so they want to go out and say, hey, Mr. Hart, I mean, you seem to have a big heart and all, but where's our piece? Maybe that's what they're out for. Maybe they're out to scare everybody out of this crypto craziness, because, you know, charlatans, whatever the guy called them. So, hucksters, fraudsters. Yeah, I mean, sounds like these people need to, tone it down a notch and start working for the people, and not some guy who put them in office, because it obviously seems that there's special interest behind this. Anyway, I keep going on these rants. What's this plan? Did our supreme leader, Mr. Richard Hart, plan all this? I don't know, guys. I look back in my mind, obviously, and I think all those times that Richard said he spoke to lawyers, all those times he said, or the SEC, you're going to get sued. People were telling him, you're going to get sued, you're going to go to prison. He said, let them come, let them come. Was he planning for this to happen? Did he want this to happen? Is this the final boss for the RH ecosystem before we win and go to the paradise level? Maybe. I mean, you tell me, okay, you're the crypto advisor, everybody calls me the crypto advisor. Guys, the people I advise, they don't use email. We talk on the phone every day. I'm not your financial advisor, by the way, just to make that clear. I advise friends and family only, because I've been in this field longer than they have, and I'm spending the time staying up to date all the time. So don't take this as financial advice. I'm just giving you my opinion. In my opinion, Richard Hart is not somebody who lets events happen and then reacts. He plans. He's a guy who anticipates, thinks, and then devises a plan. And before somebody as wise as Richard decides to poke the bear, he has a strategy. Now, if you ask me what I think his plan is, here's what I think his plan is. He could have won this battle without challenging the SEC head on, without challenging regulators head on, because there may be others. We don't know if the SEC is the last, probably just the first. He didn't choose Finland on accident. He didn't choose to not live in the US on accident. He didn't choose to launch Pulse and PulseX sacrifices on accident back to back. He didn't choose to stop streaming and disappear all of a sudden for no reason. All this is part of the plan. In my opinion, Richard saw this coming miles away, and he decided that if you go with the wisdom of the art of war, that you bring your enemy to the battleground of your choosing. And that's exactly what Richard did. He didn't have to put himself in a position where he may be prosecuted for many, many crimes, because, they can just keep piling them up. Accusations, alleged crimes, by the way. He put himself in this because he wants a public stage where he's going to go out there and wipe the floor with those uneducated, I don't even want to call them lawyers. He just wants to have a public forum where he will destroy these allegations publicly. He will educate those who have thrown around all these accusations. And in doing so, he will have provided valuable information for all those out there who still don't understand the difference between true DeFi, which is what HEX is, and these centralized DeFi companies out there. Richard doesn't operate companies. He operates 3 different protocol projects. Okay, so HEX is running on its own. He doesn't operate anything for HEX. We don't know if he operates any kind of, back operation like, the hex.com website. Okay, that's arguably the only thing he has to do with HEX. And the code was launched, audited, fully functioning. Nothing was updated since the day it launched. It's been running flawlessly. The only new thing for HEX is that now it's on multiple chains. It's not just on Ethereum anymore. Now it has proof of work Ethereum, proof of stake Ethereum, and it's on PulseChain. So HEX is HEX. It's a protocol. Whether Richard does anything or not, whether hex.com stays up or not, doesn't matter. PulseChain, thousands of validators, tens of thousands of validators. If Richard goes to prison, if Richard dies, if Richard never streams again in his life, doesn't matter. PulseChain will operate the way it operates. Now, PulseX, okay, there may be admin keys there, and I'm not too certain as to how decentralized PulseX is. Definitely more decentralized than Uniswap, guys. And if Uniswap can operate out of the US for the last years and years, I don't understand why PulseX would be targeted. As far as I know, there's a lot more scams that you can buy off Uniswap than PulseX. So that's another discussion there, because yes, there are some admin keys in the PulseX code. Okay, so let's focus more on HEX and PulseX. HEX and Pulse, and leave PulseX for another video. I will dig deeper and figure things out in a way where we could have a more elaborate discussion about PulseX. So don't forget to give me your comments. Let me know if you have any questions about anything that we're talking about. And for the sake of spreading the word and for the sake of getting more people involved in this, to protect your own freedom of choice when it comes to what you can and cannot do with your money, share this video with your friends, share with your family, tell them that, look, there's this company, PulseFinance, pls.finance, that is building tools that empower users on PulseChain. We are not shilling tokens. We're not selling you some, ICO or whatever. None of that. We create very convenient-based tools. So tools that provide convenience, like what? Like ETH to PLS. And by the way, we're also launching a marketplace where anybody can sell anything as an NFT, and anybody can buy that NFT and redeem it for that anything. So if you're a merchant, you want to sell your services, well, now you can create an NFT with your services or downloads, and you can sell them in this new marketplace. I'll talk about it in another video. nftcom.io coming soon. And it's going to empower people in ways that were just imaginary until now. This is breaking the barriers of traditional commerce and giving a new use case for NFTs. So stay tuned for more information about that. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to get all the latest right away, and we'll be talking about that soon. Now, back to RH. So was this planned? In my opinion, yes. Richard planned this. Why? Because he wants an international forum where he's going to talk about what DeFi is, and he's going to explain how HEX and PulseChain are, in fact, decentralized tools. They are the real public good. They are what we could only dream of a few years back, and what everybody wished they had the chance to get into early on when there was only Ethereum before the L1 rush and all that. Many attempts to make a faster, cheaper Ethereum have come, and a lot of people have argued, well, this one's better and that one's better, and then everybody goes back to Ethereum and they all die out. Why? Because they don't have a pulse. They don't have a community that is willing to stick by them in times like these. And most of them are just centralized versions of Ethereum. So what Richard Hart created here is a decentralized, owned by the people, for the people, clone of Ethereum that gives you the ability to be early again and to participate in a layer one that pretty much has proven through Ethereum that is one of the most valuable things you can do for a global community. To ensure global free trade and to ensure global freedom of speech, you need something like PulseChain. Why can't we just use Ethereum? You can. Ethereum is the number one, layer one network that allows for all of this. However, Ethereum did not give the same opportunity that Richard Hart gave to plebs, people like you and me. There is less insider concentration in PulseChain and more decentralization of nodes, validators in PulseChain than there is in Ethereum. Ethereum is closer to the political elites than you may think or like to think than PulseChain is. So PulseChain is faster, PulseChain is cheaper, PulseChain is newer. It's still an opportunity. Ethereum is older. It's arguably safer, more secure, more liquid, has a lot of strength, battle tested, yes. But this is a clone that gave the opportunity to those who missed out and couldn't be early in Ethereum to be early again. And it has aspirations that Ethereum is no longer discussing, like moving away from VC backing and special interest groups. Ethereum is highly concentrated in the hands of trusts and VCs and things like the Foundation and Vitalik's wallet and Vitalik's friend, who keep dumping on your heads every time it hits an all-time high. There is no competition between Ethereum and PulseChain. They should work hand in hand. They should provide different solutions. Ethereum can become more of the corporate public blockchain, and PulseChain can become more of the mainstream public blockchain. Okay? This is just an opinion. Again, don't take my words as anything, set in stone. I'm just another guy telling you his opinion on the internet. However, I do advise for several projects that all work in DeFi and true DeFi, only true DeFi. So yes, there are companies, because unfortunately the regulatory plane does not allow for just DAOs and people who collaborate to sort of dignified or taken seriously at this stage. So that's why there are companies who are building these applications. And I'm part of these companies. I'm advising on multiple levels, from treasury to actual use cases. And we need to pay more attention as to what's going on in the regulatory playground. And this is providing an education that is life-changing. Everybody who is experiencing what's happening today is going to come out of this much more informed about everything that is important to your daily lives, like your money, your banks, the people you trust, the institutions you trust. And it's going to change your mindset about where you need to store your value. Because traditionally, we all want to save money in the bank or buy property. Even property is becoming controversial, guys. Taxation, political instability, foreign policies all affect your piece of property. So choose wisely. Understand that you have options. Understand that for the first time in human history, there is digital property that we can own that has a different kind of value. People talk about intrinsic value. What is intrinsic value? Does it even matter? Let's not get into that now. So Richard Hart's not going to prison as of yet. He's not been charged with no criminal charges yet. Was it planned? I believe it was planned. Why? Because he wants a public stage to discuss the importance and the differences between DeFi and CeFi, and those DeFi lookalikes and the legacy system. That's why. And let's go to what now. So what happens now? The protector came in, destroyed 50% of our value. HEX is the lowest it's ever been. PulseChain is now at 50% of the sacrifice price. PulseX is all but obliterated yet. It's going close to zero. What happens now? What do we do, and what happens to the value of our tokens? Nobody knows. That's not something we can just, predict. But we can speculate. We can say that, okay, in my opinion, this will be short-lived. A very, very fast turnaround will take place. But that's just my opinion. I'm a very hopeful, bullish guy in general about crypto, not about everything. I'm not very bullish on a lot of things. I'm very bullish on crypto in general, specifically the RH ecosystem, Bitcoin, Ethereum, everything that is creating some sort of friction with the legacy banking system is a target right now. And that means that it is a genuine threat, and that means it has legs. What does it has legs mean? Well, it means it can challenge those status quo blue chip leaders for market share. And it can be significant market share. So let's take a look at what is DeFi and what are banks. Well, DeFi is something that allows you to do what traditionally you have to use a bank for, such as get a loan, without having a central counterparty like a bank standing in between you and the contract that you create. So when you go to get a loan from the bank and they tell you, do you have collateral? And they say, well, you need 100% collateral. So if you want to give me 100,000, you need to, if you want us to give you 100,000, you need to show us that you have 100,000. Okay. Well, and they won't give you 100%, they'll give you 90%, something like that. Well, in DeFi, you could just send that value in tokens to a contract that will allow you to mint from that contract 90% of the value in stablecoins. And this, I believe, is what Richard Hart is going to try to explain in a public forum and differentiate his creations from those that have admin keys and have central points of failure that are just as bad as a counterparty. Just like he warned about Celsius and BlockFi and FTX, he also created things that do the same functions better. So this is what I think all this is going towards. It's going towards a discussion that will take place publicly, hopefully, that will not only put Richard into a different view by the masses, meaning he goes from being the guy who's twerking in front of peacocks, wearing clown style, very expensive brands, to the guy who got your attention and now is explaining why he did all that stuff and how it benefits you, and how these systems that he has built do not require his input or streams or work, okay? So that there is really no expectation from the worker box. I hope this was educational and informative and that it puts you in a thinking mode, and I hope that you will comment and let me know what you feel. Like, subscribe to the channel, stay fearless, and I'll catch you in the next one.